Absolutely. Here's asterisk asterisk keynote no. One asterisk asterisk asterisk. Discipline beats emotion every single time. Asterisk expanded into approximately asterisk asterisk 1,000 words asterisk asterisk. Written in the style and tone of Jim Rohn. Discipline beats emotion every single time. That's the rule. That's the game changer. That's the idea that separates the few who succeed from the many who wish they could. You know, most people let how they asterisk feel asterisk determine what they asterisk do asterisk, and that's backwards. That's dangerous because feelings come and go, but results stick around. And when you look at the people who consistently win, who rise early, who execute, who don't give up, you'll find one thing behind them every time: discipline. Discipline doesn't care if you're tired. Discipline doesn't check if you're in the mood. It doesn't ask for your permission. It simply says, do the thing anyway. And that's why it's so powerful. See, emotion is unreliable. Some days you're motivated, some days you're not. Some mornings you wake up ready to go, and others you just want to crawl back under the blanket. That's natural, that's human. But here's what separates winners. They don't let those emotions decide the direction of their day. I've seen it over and over again. Someone sets a goal, they get fired up. First few days, they're all in reading the books, hitting the gym, making the calls, and then comes a tough morning. Maybe it rained. Maybe they didn't sleep well. Maybe someone says something discouraging. Suddenly the fire fizzles out and emotion takes over. I don't feel like it today, they say, but here's the problem. When emotion wins today, it wants to win tomorrow too. And the next day, until one excuse turns into a habit, and the dream, it dies in silence. Discipline is different. Discipline says, I made a commitment and I honor it. Discipline is the quiet voice that shows up whether you feel like it or not. It's the part of you that gets dressed for the gym before your brain even has time to argue. It's the part that opens the book when your emotions say, let's just watch a little TV. And over time, discipline becomes stronger than your excuses. Most people misunderstand motivation. They think they have to wait for it. But motivation is the reward of action, not the cause. You don't get motivated asterisk before asterisk doing the hard thing. You get motivated asterisk after asterisk. It's like this. Try cleaning your messy room when you're in a bad mood. You don't feel like it, but halfway through, as the space begins to clear, so does your mind. You feel better asterisk because asterisk you acted. That's the secret nobody talks about. Discipline creates momentum, and momentum creates motivation. Let me tell you, your emotions are like the weather. Sometimes sunny, sometimes cloudy. Sometimes a storm rolls in for no reason at all. You can't control that, but discipline is your umbrella. Discipline is your raincoat. Discipline lets you walk through the storm without quitting halfway. It's the decision that says, no matter what today feels like, I will keep my word. People say they want freedom. Financial freedom, time freedom, emotional freedom, but freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you feel like. Freedom comes from doing what must be done consistently. It's counterintuitive, but true. The more disciplined you are, the more free you become. Because now you're not controlled by cravings, impulses, laziness, or fear. You're in control, you drive your own life, and that kind of freedom, it's rare, it's earned, it's built brick by brick with discipline. Let's be honest, everyone has hard days, everyone feels off. Discipline doesn't eliminate your emotions. It just refuses to let them drive. It puts them in the passenger seat. You acknowledge them, but you don't obey them. That's power. That's how you keep moving forward when life gets heavy. That's how you stay on course when everything in you wants to turn back. Discipline is the difference between a wish and a result. A lot of people wish they were in shape, wish they had more money, wish they lived with purpose, but wishing is emotional, it fades. Discipline is structural, it stays. You don't need to wish. You need to asterisk build asterisk. And every action you take in discipline is like laying another brick. It may seem small today, but over time, it becomes a wall that protects your future. Discipline isn't dramatic. It's not glamorous. It doesn't get applause. Nobody claps when you choose a salad over pizza. Nobody cheers when you go to bed early instead of watching a show. But 6 months from now, people will notice the glow, the calm in your voice, the clarity in your decisions. The results will speak for you, and when they ask, "How did you change?" you'll remember it was that rule, that one rule that shifted everything: discipline before emotion. Let me tell you a truth that'll hit hard if you let it. Most of your life's problems can be traced back to a moment where discipline lost and emotion won. The extra debt, emotion. The missed opportunities, emotion. The weight gain, the regrets, the wasted time, emotion. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, emotion wins. But when you say, "I'll do it anyway," when you rise above how you feel and act on what you decided, that's when the tide begins to turn. You'll hear people say, "Go with your gut," or "follow your heart." Sounds romantic, doesn't it? But that's not always wise, because sometimes your gut is full of fear. Sometimes your heart is just tired. And if you follow that, you'll talk yourself out of progress. Discipline says, "I appreciate your feelings, but I've got work to do." It's not about being cold or robotic. It's about being rooted in what matters most: your principles, your purpose, your promise to yourself. Discipline builds character, it builds reputation, but most of all, it builds trust, not with others, though that's a bonus, but with yourself. And when you trust yourself, your confidence skyrockets. You no longer need to feel inspired every day. Because you you'll do the work anyway. That's what changes people, not motivation, but self-trust. And self-trust is born through daily discipline. You'll never eliminate emotion. You're not supposed to. But you can decide what leads. Every morning when you wake up, there's a battle between two voices. One says, "Sleep a little longer." The other says, "Get up and chase your goals." One says, "It's okay to skip today." The other says, "You've come too far to quit now." Discipline is the voice you strengthen through action, and over time, that voice becomes louder, clearer, and more natural. People ask, "How do I stay consistent?" The answer isn't more hype, it's more structure. Set rules, create systems, eliminate choices, decide in advance. Don't negotiate with your feelings every day. They'll always win if you let them. Put your habits on autopilot. Build routines that don't rely on you feeling perfect. Let discipline take the wheel. That's how you stay the course. Discipline doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. You'll stumble. You'll miss a day. That's fine. Just don't let it turn into a week, a month, or a life. Real discipline says, "I'll start again." No drama, no guilt. Just return to the path. That's the power of the disciplined mind. It's not fragile. It's focused. It doesn't need perfect conditions to grow. It just needs the decision, "I will act regardless of how I feel." Your emotions lie. Discipline tells the truth. That's one of life's most overlooked realities. Emotions have a voice, and it's loud. Sometimes that voice is anxious. Sometimes it's tired. Sometimes it's excited, but fleeting. The truth is, emotions are unpredictable. They change with the weather, the time of day, your hunger levels, your environment, or even a single comment from someone else. That's how easily emotions can take control if you let them. But discipline, it doesn't shift with the wind. It's stable. It's honest. It gives you the truth whether it's pleasant or not. Think about how many decisions you've made based on emotion. The impulse buy you regretted 5 minutes later. The argument you escalated because your pride flared up. The opportunity you didn't take because fear convinced you it wasn't the right time. Emotions lie in the moment. They exaggerate risk, they distort outcomes, they create temporary comfort that leads to long-term regret. Discipline, on the other hand, looks beyond the moment. It doesn't care how you feel right now. It cares about who you're becoming. It cares about the end result, not the short-term ease. When you wake up tired, your emotions say, sleep in, you deserve it. Discipline says, you made a promise, keep it. When you face rejection, emotion says, don't try again, you're not good enough. Discipline says, try again, you're learning. When things get difficult, emotions push you toward quitting, but discipline whispers, this is where growth lies. And that's what makes the difference, not the absence of emotion, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Emotions can be deceptive because they feel so real in the moment. They feel urgent, they feel powerful, but feelings aren't facts. That voice in your head telling you that you can't, that's not truth. It's fear wearing a disguise. That mood convincing you it's okay to delay your plans, that's laziness with a soft voice. Discipline doesn't listen to those voices. It listens to your principles. It listens to your commitments, and that's why it leads to real progress. Not fast, not flashy, but real. You'll notice something about successful people. They don't make decisions based on how they feel. They make decisions based on what matters. They show up on the days they'd rather stay home. They practice when no one's watching. They prepare when others procrastinate, and the reason is simple. They trust discipline more than they trust emotion. Because they've learned the hard way that emotion will often steer you into comfortable failure, while discipline steers you into uncomfortable success. You can feel afraid and still take action. You can feel tired and still finish what you started. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. That's what discipline allows you to do. It separates you from your feelings long enough to get to the truth. Because the truth is, most of the time, you are capable. You are strong enough, you are ready, but emotion tries to convince you otherwise. It magnifies obstacles and minimizes your strengths. Discipline restores balance. It brings you back to reality, where results are built, one choice at a time. People often chase motivation, hoping to feel the fire before they move. But motivation is temporary. It's like a sugar rush. Discipline, however, is the long-term energy source. It doesn't need to be flashy. It doesn't need to be exciting. It just needs to be consistent. You don't need a rush of motivation to do the right thing. You need a system that runs no matter how you feel. That's the difference between someone who wants change and someone who creates it. Emotions can't be your compass because they spin too easily. One small failure can make you feel like you're not cut out for success. One piece of criticism can shrink your ambition. One lazy afternoon can turn into a lost week. That's how emotions operate. They build stories out of moments. Discipline doesn't tell stories. It sticks to the facts. Did you show up or not? Did you follow through or not? It's binary. It's clear. And that clarity leads to confidence. Confidence isn't the result of feeling great. It's the result of acting with integrity again and again. Let's not pretend discipline is always easy. It's not. But it's simple. Emotion complicates things. It creates endless debates in your mind. Should I do this now or later? Am I ready or not? What if I fail? Discipline cuts through all of that. It says, do what you said you would do, and that's it. No excuses, no drama, no emotional theater, just action. Have you ever had one of those days where you didn't feel like doing anything, but you did it anyway, and afterward you felt incredible? That's what happens when you override emotion with discipline. You build trust in yourself. You stop relying on the unpredictable tides of feeling, and you start building on the solid ground of character. That's when things shift. That's when you become consistent. Because consistency doesn't come from excitement. It comes from commitment. Every time you act out of discipline, you're rewiring your brain. You're proving to yourself that your feelings don't run the show. You're creating a new default setting, one where action isn't optional, it's automatic, and that changes everything. Because once your habits are stronger than your moods, you become unstoppable. Not because you never feel weak, but because you no longer believe every lie your emotions tell. Even in relationships, in business, in health, emotion may give you the spark, but discipline keeps the flame alive. Emotion might get you started on a diet. Discipline keeps you on it after a stressful day. Emotion might help you make a bold decision. Discipline helps you stay with it when things get hard. Emotion may inspire a dream. Discipline turns it into a plan and then into a result. The most dangerous thing you can do is live a life guided entirely by how you feel. That's how dreams die quietly, not with a crash but with a slow fade. It's easy to act when you feel great, but the real test, the one that builds your future, is how you act when you don't. That's where your character is revealed. That's where your identity is formed. Anyone can perform on a good day. Discipline performs on the hard ones. Discipline shows up in the rain, in the setbacks, in the silence when no one's watching. Because discipline doesn't perform for others. It shows up for the future self you're building. The one who will thank you for every hard choice you made today. You'll never be able to eliminate emotion, and you shouldn't try. Emotion brings color to life. It brings passion and depth. But it's not meant to lead, it's meant to inform. You can listen to your emotions, you can acknowledge them, but don't give them the final word. Give that job to discipline, because when you live by emotion, your life becomes chaotic. When you live by discipline, your life becomes consistent, grounded, and effective. And over time, that consistency compounds into something remarkable, not overnight, but certainly, inevitably. You don't have to feel like it, you just have to do it. That's the shift that turns average into excellent, potential into progress, dreams into reality. Most people are waiting to feel right before they move. They want to feel motivated, energized, confident, inspired. But feelings are unreliable. They come and go, often when you least expect them. If you wait to feel like it, you'll wait forever. And while you're waiting, someone else is doing. Someone else is taking action. Someone else is building what you only talk about. That's the difference. The real achievers don't feel like it every day. They don't wake up thrilled to work out. They don't always feel excited to read, to study, to grind, to follow through on boring but necessary tasks. But they do them anyway, because they've understood something most people never figure out. Feelings don't drive action. Action drives feelings. When you act, even without desire, the feeling often follows. You start the task you've been dreading, and suddenly you're in motion. Your energy picks up, your mind becomes engaged. And that original resistance fades. But if you wait for the right feeling first, you're putting your success in the hands of chance. You're surrendering your future to mood swings, distractions, and excuses. That's no way to build a life. The key is to move first, action first, discipline first. You train your mind to act independently of your emotions. That's where freedom begins, not in doing what you feel like, but in doing what's right, whether you feel like it or not. You might be tired, but you can still do it. You might be afraid, but you can still show up. You might be uncertain, but you can still take the next step. The biggest lie emotion tells is that you need to be ready. But readiness is a myth. Nobody feels fully ready. Most success stories begin in discomfort, doubt, and confusion, but people acted anyway. They picked up the phone, they sent the email, they ran the first mile. They showed up to the meeting. They just did it. Not because they were sure of success, but because they refused to stay still. You don't need to feel strong to do something hard. You become strong by doing hard things. You don't need to feel confident to step into the unknown. You build confidence by stepping. You don't need to feel passionate every day to make progress. Progress builds its own momentum, but you'll never get there if you keep negotiating with your feelings. Stop asking yourself if you feel like it. Ask if it needs to be done. If the answer is yes, do it. That shift, just doing it, will change your self-image. Every time you follow through without the feeling, you become more disciplined. You start to see yourself differently. You begin to say things like, I do hard things, I follow through, I take action even when it's uncomfortable. and that new identity becomes your foundation. But it starts with choices, small, daily, unglamorous choices to act anyway. Some days your mind will resist. It'll say, let's do it later, or you deserve a break, or one day off won't hurt. That's emotion trying to delay your growth. It sounds reasonable, but it's a trap. Because when you feed that voice, it gets stronger. Soon it starts talking you out of everything that matters. But when you push back, when you do it anyway, that voice gets quieter. It learns that you're not negotiable, that your goals are not up for debate, that you're not run by your impulses. This mindset works in every area: fitness, work, relationships, learning. There's never a perfect moment. There's just now, and you either do what needs to be done or you don't. Most people want to feel like doing it and then they'll do it. But the real transformation comes when you do it even while feeling resistance. That's when you break through. That's when you separate from the crowd. In life, the doers always win over the waiters. The doers might be afraid, but they move. They might be unsure, but they try. They might be uncomfortable, but they press on. And each time they act, they stretch their capacity. They build something real. The waiters are still on the sidelines, waiting for certainty, clarity, inspiration. But life doesn't wait. It rewards those who move in spite of doubt. You don't have to feel inspired to work on your goals. You don't have to feel brave to take the next step. You don't have to feel motivated to keep your promises. You just have to do it. That's what creates discipline. Discipline isn't about never having bad days. It's about doing what needs to be done even on those bad days, especially on those days, because that's when it counts. That's when character is forged. That's when the gap between dreamers and doers is defined. You'll always have an excuse ready if you want one. But excuses are emotional arguments, not logical reasons. They come from fear, fatigue, laziness. They sound like, I'm too busy. I'm not in the mood. It's not a good time. But those same excuses show up year after year unless you break the cycle. And the way to break it is to stop giving your emotions the final say. Start giving your decisions more power than your feelings. It's easy to act when you're excited. The real challenge is acting when you're indifferent, when the spark is gone, when it feels like a grind. But that's where growth lies, in the ordinary, in the repetition, in the daily decision to do it anyway. Those who rise understand that feeling like it is a luxury, doing it is a necessity. They don't rely on perfect circumstances. They create forward movement from imperfect conditions. That's what separates people who evolve from those who stay stuck. Waiting to feel like it makes you inconsistent. Some days you'll go hard, and other days you'll do nothing. That inconsistency is what keeps people stuck. Discipline doesn't leave that to chance. It builds structure. It builds reliability. You become someone who does the work regardless. That's when results compound. That's when habits become permanent. That's when your life begins to change, not in dramatic bursts, but in steady, disciplined effort. You don't need to be in the mood, you just need to start. Action is the activator. It shifts your energy. It changes your focus. It creates momentum, and once you're moving, everything becomes easier. The hardest part is starting. The hardest step is the first one. But once you begin, the weight starts to lift. That's the beauty of action. It transforms resistance into movement, but you only experience that if you stop waiting to feel ready. Discipline is the silent architect of greatness. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't seek applause. But it's behind every meaningful result, every transformation, every long-term success. You rarely see it in the beginning stages. That's because discipline works quietly in the background, laying the foundation brick by brick while the rest of the world isn't watching. Most people only notice success when it becomes obvious. When the body is fit, the business is booming, the skills are refined. But by that point, the heavy lifting has already been done. It was done in silence, in private, in moments that seemed small and insignificant at the time. Discipline is what keeps a person going when there's no recognition. It's the force that compels someone to stick to their plan even when the excitement has worn off. Discipline is what wakes you up early, what gets you through the workout when it hurts, what makes you finish the book when your eyes are heavy. It's the architect drawing up the invisible structure of your character, your habits, and your future. Without it, everything collapses. Without discipline, talent is wasted, opportunities are lost, and time slips through your fingers. The reason discipline is so powerful is because it builds incrementally. It doesn't rely on big leaps. It doesn't require dramatic action. It just needs consistency. One small decision repeated over time. One productive choice after another. One commitment honored no matter how you feel. Each time you follow through, you reinforce the structure. You strengthen the frame. You deepen the foundation. And eventually, what was once invisible begins to show. People start to notice. Results begin to appear, but the real work happened long before anyone could see it. Discipline is also what carries you through the valleys. Motivation might get you started, but motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. Discipline doesn't care about your mood. It doesn't care if it's raining or if you had a bad night. It shows up day in and day out. Discipline builds momentum not by rushing forward, but by refusing to stop. It's not about speed, it's about direction, it's about reliability, and in a world that constantly distracts and derails, reliability becomes a rare and powerful asset. Greatness isn't built in bursts of passion. It's built in repetition, repetition of the right actions over and over, regardless of how you feel. That's discipline. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be consistent, even when progress feels slow, even when no one notices, even when the outcome is far in the distance. Discipline is what keeps your feet moving when everything else tells you to stop. It's the internal agreement you make with yourself and the honor you place on that agreement every single day. Discipline is also a protector. It protects your time, your energy, your priorities. It sets boundaries around what matters. It teaches you to say no, not just to distractions, but to the weaker version of yourself. The part of you that wants ease over excellence, the part that chooses temporary pleasure over long-term gain. Discipline stands guard at the door of your goals and says, not today. Not today, laziness. Not today, excuses. Not today, compromise. It doesn't shout. It simply acts. If you look at anyone who has mastered a craft, an athlete, an artist, a leader, you'll find discipline behind the scenes. They trained when no one was watching. They studied when it was boring. They practiced the fundamentals over and over until it became automatic. That's how excellence is built, through repetition, through structure, through discipline, not through hype or chance, but through conscious design. They didn't just hope for greatness, they architected it quietly, methodically, with patience. Discipline also sharpens your focus. It filters out the noise. It stops you from chasing every new thing, every distraction that looks exciting in the moment. It keeps you grounded in your purpose. It reminds you of what you committed to when your emotions try to take over. And because of that, it gives you a deeper sense of control, control over your days, control over your energy, control over the direction of your life. That kind of clarity and control doesn't come from emotion. It comes from structure. It comes from discipline. One of the greatest things discipline gives you is self-respect. Not the kind that comes from what others say about you, but the kind that comes from knowing you can count on yourself, that you can trust yourself to follow through, that you don't break promises to your own goals. That inner strength begins to build when you realize you are capable of doing what's difficult, again and again. It grows every time you make a choice aligned with your higher self instead of your immediate impulses. And with that inner strength comes confidence, not the loud kind, but the steady kind, the kind that doesn't need to be proven because it's already been lived. Discipline isn't about being rigid. It's not about punishment or suffering. It's about alignment. It's about structuring your life in a way that reflects your true priorities. It's about designing your day to serve your future. It's about taking control of what you can, so you don't become a victim of what you can't. It gives you rhythm, routine, and reason. It gives you predictability in an unpredictable world, and that stability becomes your advantage. Even when the results don't show right away, discipline is still working. You may not see the fruits today or tomorrow, but the roots are growing, the foundation is forming, and when the breakthrough comes, and it always does, it's not because of one big moment, it's because of the hundreds of moments that came before it. The quiet hours, the repeated choices, the times you wanted to quit but didn't, that's the architecture, that's the blueprint, and it was discipline that drew it, not emotion, not excitement, but discipline. The challenge with discipline is that it's not glamorous. It doesn't give instant gratification. It asks you to delay the reward. It asks you to sacrifice comfort for clarity, ease for excellence. It requires patience in a world that wants everything now. That's why so few embrace it, but those who do, those who stay committed to the quiet work, end up with lives that speak volumes, not through talk, but through evidence, through impact, through legacy. And it all starts with the silent architect building day by day, one disciplined decision at a time. Discipline is a muscle, train it daily. Most people think discipline is something you either have or don't have, like a natural talent. But it's not fixed. It's not reserved for the elite. Discipline is just like a muscle in your body. It gets stronger the more you use it, and it weakens the more you ignore it. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. What matters is whether you're willing to train it, whether you're willing to work on it every single day, even if just a little at a time. Because with enough reps, that discipline muscle grows. It becomes reliable. It becomes part of who you are. It begins with small things. Wake up when you said you would. Make your bed. Follow through on one promise to yourself. These seem like nothing, but they're the foundation. Every time you do what you said you'd do, no matter how small, you send a message to your mind. I can be trusted. I follow through. That message adds up. It creates momentum. Just like in the gym, the more reps you put in, the more the weight starts to feel manageable. That's how discipline works. It might feel like a struggle in the beginning, but with repetition, it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, it becomes part of your identity. There's no shortcut to building discipline. You can't buy it, you can't borrow it, you earn it through action. Every choice you make is either strengthening that muscle or weakening it. Hit the snooze button, the muscle weakens. Skip the workout. It weakens. Delay the task you said you'd do. It weakens. But when you rise on time, push through the discomfort, do what needs to be done. That's a rep. And one rep turns into 2, and 2 into 10. And suddenly you've built something solid. People often wait for motivation to show up before they act. But discipline is built by acting when motivation is nowhere to be found. That's where the real training happens. It's easy to do the right thing when you're fired up. It's a whole different story when you're tired, bored, uninspired, or stressed. Those are the moments that build your discipline muscle. That's when you show yourself what you're made of. Not on the easy days, but on the hard ones. That's where resilience is born. Training discipline also means getting comfortable with discomfort. Growth always lives outside your comfort zone. Every time you resist the urge to take the easy way out, you become a little stronger. Every time you choose structure over chaos, effort over ease, you reinforce that inner strength. The discomfort doesn't go away completely, but your capacity to handle it increases. The weight doesn't get lighter, but you get stronger. And over time, you stop flinching when life gets tough. You've trained for it. You're ready. The secret to building discipline is consistency, not intensity. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You just need to start. You need to do something today that stretches your willpower, even if just by 1 degree. It could be drinking water instead of soda, turning off your phone and reading for 10 minutes, saying no to an impulse purchase. Each time you choose wisely, you add to the strength of that muscle. It's not about heroic efforts. It's about daily effort, regular effort, the kind that stacks up over weeks and months. Discipline is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. It's not about what you do occasionally. It's about what you do consistently. That's where the compounding effect kicks in. Each disciplined choice you make doesn't just create a better outcome in the moment. It creates a stronger version of you, and that stronger version shows up in every part of your life. In your work, your health, your relationships, your mindset. When discipline is trained across the board, you become someone who gets things done, not just when it's convenient, but when it's required. Training discipline also means learning to delay gratification. That's one of the biggest challenges in today's world. Everything is designed for instant pleasure, quick results, fast food, same-day delivery, likes and notifications. But real achievement takes time. Real change takes patience, and discipline is what bridges the gap between now and then. It's what allows you to say no to something small today so you can say yes to something great tomorrow. It's not about denying yourself forever. It's about controlling your impulses long enough to build something meaningful. The more you train discipline, the more self-respect you gain. Every time you follow through, even when it's inconvenient, you send a message to yourself that you matter. That your word matters, that your goals matter, that you're worth the effort. That self-respect builds confidence. Confidence that's not based on talk, but on evidence. You begin to walk differently, think differently, carry yourself differently. You stop looking for external validation because you've got internal proof. You've trained, you've paid the price, you've earned the result. Like a muscle, discipline also requires rest and recovery. It doesn't mean working non-stop. It means being intentional. You train hard and then you recharge. You stay focused and then you rest with purpose. That balance keeps the muscle growing without burning out. Rest isn't the opposite of discipline, it's part of the system. It's what allows you to come back stronger, clearer, more committed. But even rest can be disciplined. Intentional rest is different from avoidance. One refreshes you, the other drains you. Discipline helps you know the difference. You'll also notice that the more you train discipline in one area, the more it spills over into others. Build discipline in your fitness, and your work ethic improves. Build discipline in your finances, and your emotional control strengthens. Build discipline in your habits, and your relationships benefit. It's all connected. You're not training one part of yourself. You're training the whole system. You're becoming someone who lives with order, with intention, with clarity. And like any muscle, discipline responds to resistance. The greater the challenge, the greater the growth. You're not meant to avoid resistance. You're meant to rise against it. You grow through struggle. You grow by doing the thing you didn't think you could do. By saying no when everything in you wants to say yes. By staying focused when distractions surround you. By showing up when it's inconvenient. That resistance is the gym for your mind, your character, your will. Discipline isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't boast. It shows up quietly, consistently, every day. It puts in the work. It keeps its word. It handles the boring, the tedious, the difficult. And when enough days pass, it produces something remarkable. Not just better results, but a better you. A version of you that doesn't break when life gets tough. A version that can be counted on. A version that leads instead of reacts. That's what daily training builds. That's what the reps are for. That's what the process is all about. The world rewards consistent action, not potential. Potential is nice to talk about. It makes you feel good. It sounds impressive. People will compliment you on it, praise you for it, even admire you for it. But potential doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't build a business. It doesn't finish the work. It doesn't change your body, your bank account, or your relationships. Action does that. Real, consistent action. Day in and day out, whether you feel like it or not. That's what the world is looking for. That's what people notice. Not what you could do someday, but what you're doing right now. Not the promise, but the proof. There are millions of people with potential. Potential to lead, to write, to build, to inspire, to grow. but that's not rare. What's rare is someone who actually moves, someone who starts, someone who follows through, someone who does the hard thing today without needing applause. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. Potential is cheap, it's everywhere, but consistent action, that's rare, that's powerful. That's what creates momentum, and momentum is what moves the needle in life. Not hype, not talent, not wishful thinking, but steady, focused effort that doesn't quit. The reason potential isn't rewarded is simple, it's not measurable. You can't see it. You can't evaluate it. You can't deposit it into a bank account or hand it to a customer or show it to your team. It's invisible, but action, that's visible. That's trackable. That leaves evidence. People trust what they can see. They reward what works, and action is what proves that something works. It's what builds trust. In business, in leadership, in life, people don't want to hear what you might do. They want to see what you've done. What you've built, what you've delivered, what you've shown up for. Action creates results, and results open doors. You don't get opportunities just because you're promising. You get opportunities because you've produced something. You've delivered value, you've solved problems, you've taken the raw material of your potential and turned it into something useful. That's what makes people take notice. That's what opens up collaborations, promotions, invitations. Not potential, but production. Not ideas, but implementation. The ones who succeed aren't necessarily the most talented. They're the most consistent. They show up when it's boring. They put in the reps when no one's watching. They follow through when most have already quit. The gap between potential and results is filled by daily decisions, choices that often seem small in the moment, but compound massively over time. Do you make the call or delay it? Do you write the page or skip it? Do you review the plan or push it to tomorrow? These are the pivots. These are the micro movements that separate the high achievers from the high potential. Potential says, I'll get to it. Action says, I've already started. Potential says, I'm thinking about it. Action says, I'm doing it. You don't need more thinking. You need more doing, more execution, more follow through. That's what earns trust. That's what gets results. The marketplace isn't sentimental. It doesn't hand out prizes for good intentions. It rewards results. It rewards persistence. It rewards the person who took what they had, even if it wasn't much, and made it work. That's the kind of person who builds success, not the one waiting for everything to be perfect, not the one waiting for motivation, but the one who acts in the face of imperfection, the one who moves anyway, the one who understands that consistency builds credibility, and credibility is the foundation for everything else: reputation, influence, impact. You don't have to be the smartest or the fastest, but you do have to be reliable. You have to be the person who does what they say they'll do. That's what people respect. That's what people invest in. You want to be trusted, start by being consistent. You want to be taken seriously, show up every day, keep your word, meet your deadlines, handle your responsibilities, deliver without drama. Because over time, your habits speak louder than your words. People stop listening to what you say and start watching what you do. That's how reputations are built, not by promises, but by patterns. Potential fades without action. The longer you sit on it, the less it matters. The world moves on. Others are out there taking steps, building, learning, failing forward. While you're waiting, they're working. While you're thinking, they're building. While you're hoping, they're moving. And that movement creates separation. Not because they're better, but because they didn't let perfection stop them. They acted, and because they acted, they learned faster, adjusted quicker, and grew stronger. Action gives you data. It gives you feedback. It gives you lessons that potential alone can never offer, because theory doesn't teach what experience does. There's a temptation to romanticize potential, to think it gives you value just by existing, but the truth is, potential is only valuable when it's activated. Until then, it's nothing more than an idea. You don't get paid for your ideas, you get paid for execution. The person who takes average ideas and executes with excellence will outperform the person who has brilliant ideas but no output. The game isn't about brilliance, it's about resilience. It's about endurance, it's about doing the work, showing up and staying the course. Consistency beats intensity every time. Most people start strong and burn out. They sprint for a few days, then disappear for weeks. That doesn't create results. What creates results is showing up every day, even if just for a short time, with full presence. A little bit every day compounds more than a lot every once in a while. It's the same principle in every area: business, fitness, relationships, learning. A little bit done consistently outperforms bursts of enthusiasm followed by long gaps of inactivity, because consistency builds rhythm, and rhythm becomes momentum. And once you've got momentum, things start to shift. The truth is, people are watching. Whether you know it or not, they're observing your patterns. They're evaluating you not on what you say you're capable of, but on what you've shown, on what you've built, on the example you set. Your kids, your colleagues, your clients, they're all learning from your habits. Are you someone who finishes? Are you someone who sticks with it? Are you someone who keeps showing up, even after a failure, even after a setback? That's what earns influence. That's what earns trust. That's what gets rewarded. There are people with less potential than you living the life you want, not because they're better, but because they acted. They didn't wait for the stars to align. They didn't wait for someone to pick them. They picked themselves. They started where they were with what they had, and they kept going. That's the difference. And not luck, not genius, not talent, but tenacity, repetition, application, and every single one of those traits can be developed. You don't have to be born with them. You train them, you commit, you execute. And you keep going when it's boring, when it's inconvenient, when it's lonely. That's what builds something real. Potential wants to be liked. Action wants to be effective. And you've got to decide which one you want more: approval or achievement. Because the ones who achieve aren't always liked in the beginning, but they're respected, they're trusted, they're remembered. Not because they talked about what they could do, but because they showed what they had done. Action is louder than words. Action is louder than image. Action is louder than